pass it, I'm bringing it in. Hey folks, Rich here at RCINFORMER. It's once again time to recycle your plastic with the all new 90mm JP all metal fan, guys. Now this is sort of the second part of the intro video I did on this this fan, and today I'm going to show you guys how to install this inside the Taft Hobby Valkyrie jet. Now this fan should fit in any 90mm EDF jet. The stock setup of the Valkyrie is really nice. It's actually real efficient. But this 8-cell version should give it a boost. This is the 8-cell 90mm. I'm going to be also installing a Mantis 150 amp ESC, which is sort of the recommended ESC for this, and we're going to go ahead and get it in here and see how it all runs. So anyway, guys, without further delay, let's get on with the installation. The first step in the installation process is to remove the old equipment and the old powertrain out here, and that's simply done by flipping your Valkyrie upside down, putting it up on a foam block or a stand somehow so it's secure, and then removing the 2 self-tapping screws for the access hatch to the fan. And you can see how easily that comes off. There's a single self-tapping screw on this side of the fan and a single self-tapping screw on that side of the fan, and then the whole fan will come out really easily. Now, of course, prior to doing this, you do up front want to remove the lead from the servo or the throttle channel out of the receiver. Get that out of there, and of course remove any zip ties that might be holding this thing in place up front. So, and really simply, as you can see, this thing kind of comes out. Sometimes you have to kind of pry it out. Some are tighter or looser than others. Now off camera, I already removed the front part of this, so I should be able to kind of pull this all out. You can see the 80 amp ESC coming out of here. You can see the BEC coming out of here, and of course your power line and of course your power that goes into your receiver. And of course I had my red wire here already taped off because I run a separate receiver battery in my airplane just for a little extra security. And you can see how simply this whole powertrain, this whole unit comes out of here. The next step is to simply fit the fan in position. Now you can see here I've already pre-wired everything. I kind of had to do it off camera to make sure that everything fit right, to make sure I'm telling you guys the right thing. I also noticed that this fan's a bit long with the spinner cone off of there, so it actually has to be mounted or put in place first, and then once it's in position, just kind of screw that, reach your hand in there and screw that, that spinner cone back on. But you can see this thing pretty much just drops right in. I did have to do a little bit of trimming of the foam down in here. Each fan may be slightly different, but whatever it takes to really get the thing in position is really all you need. Also, I went ahead and drilled 2 additional holes right here and right here because the whole bolt pattern doesn't quite mount up. And I put 2 screws in here and 2 screws in here, and just drill a small hole in there and just use some self-tapping screws to tap those into the plastic, and this thing fits right in. Also, a couple things to note here regarding the wires. I did have to solder my bullets onto the ESC. Some ESCs will have them already soldered on, and some won't. Also, after plugging this all in, you do want to run it first once or twice to make sure the fan's spinning the correct direction before you mount all this stuff in here, because these wires actually fit way up in here, and it's really hard to get these, it can be tough to pull these back out of there. You want to make sure the polarity of the wires is correct, so the fan is spinning the right way. And I already tested this ahead of time, and then I color-coded everything. So I do have one red lead, because they already put red on all 3 of these wires, and then I went ahead and put a blue and a yellow over these 2 wires, and I decided just not to cut them ahead of time. If I do need to remove this thing at a later date, obviously the red one already comes off. All I have to do is take a hobby knife and just cut across there, cut across here, and then they'll all disconnect and separate. But this actually gives you better insulation to just put heat shrink wrap over them, since I already tested this and found out the correct direction that the fan was running, and I'm good to go with the color coding. So anytime in the future I do need to take that off, they'll be going the right way. Now, a couple other things to note. This speed controller, actually midway through, I actually switched over to a 120. That's really all that's required of this, instead of using the 150 amp that I previously showed you. And the 120 will get the job done with this fan. Also, additionally here, I had to add, as you can see here, quite a bit of wire to this, because the wires have to run all the way to the front of this airplane. And then as I run to the front here, I used AN150 connectors. All my 8-cell planes configurations all use AN150, so rather than changing them on the batteries and everything, I just got these and kind of soldered these on. I usually use EC5s on my 6-cell setups, and I use these 7mm AN150 connectors on all my 8-cell setups. Now, again, you do have to attach some wire to this thing because the wire run is pretty long to the front of the airplane. That's simply done by just, grabbing another length of wire, cutting the solder end off, and then just sort of joining the two frayed wire ends before you put any solder together. Just join them together, as you can see here, and then just kind of, just mash them all down in the middle. They actually grab each other when you put them together like this. And then just kind of mash them down in the middle and then solder them, and you'll have like a really nice solid solder joint. And then just put some heat shrink wrap over them. One other item, there's a spark arrestor line on here. You don't need this. You can cut it off. I just heat shrink mine wrapped underneath there. As you can see, the separate spark arrestor line running here. It's not needed in this case because I have the AN150 spark arrestor bullet here, which already arrests the spark, so that already takes care of that problem. A few other items to note when trimming your cowling to get everything to fit in there. I noticed that the engine lip on this is actually quite a bit bigger than the stock fan. So what I had to do is I just took a file and ran it kind of deeper down into this trench and kind of made that lip trench a little deeper. Also sanded along here, and one of the best tools for doing this, and doing this very quickly actually, is just using a Dremel drum and just sanding kind of where needed, okay, to get everything to fit. Also using a hobby knife to trim away a little bit here, because the engine mounting tabs are much farther back and they're much bigger on this airplane. And then also using that sanding drum, I had to sand away a little bit down here to get these wires to fit, especially over the lip. But be careful when you do that. It gets kind of thin down in here, so you just have to be careful when you trim that. But the best way to do this, I found, is really just putting the bare fan in there and then mounting this. And as you push down on this and lift it up, you'll get impressions of like this edge right here, and you'll get impressions of this edge right along here, and it'll tell you pretty much where you need to kind of sand it down. It's only foam, guys. It's very easy to sand this down, but you just trim it where you need to. So when you do put this cowl back on, everything goes down nice and flush. The final installation of the fan is as follows. Now, once you've already had this thing seated down there, you've got your holes drilled, you've sanded everything you've needed into to make it fit. Of course, you've sanded in here to make everything fit properly. And then, of course, you've done all your wiring and everything's ready to go. You really just feed everything into place. Now, a lot of times this actually works better when you have the airplane standing on its nose, because then all these wires, the ESC and everything are just going to sort of fall down in there. But for the purpose of the video here, I'm just going to kind of put these in here. But standing it on its nose, I find that all this stuff just sort of falls into place a whole lot easier. So, but anyway, we go ahead and we put this in position very, very carefully. The wires around the side seems to help the best. And then the back of the motor, as you can see, just kind of very carefully pushing it past the foam. And it all will go into place nicely here, and then just get this whole thing to just sort of fall into place. Now, as advertised before, the spinner cone's got to be put on. So you have to kind of reach in there in a creative way here, and very carefully with your fingers here. I'm going to try and do this as best as I can. Spinning it, again, not clockwise to tighten it, but counterclockwise. You can see how you can get that thing spinning it in position. And then, of course, you can pull it out a little ways, and then make sure you got it on there tightly. This is very important. Again, you really don't want that spinner cone coming off of there. Again, this motor doesn't vibrate hardly at all, so you're probably not going to have that problem. And you can see right here, spinner cone's in place, and we're ready to put this thing into place. Now, if you do need to take this thing out of here, keep in mind, as you pull this out, you're going to have to unscrew that thing and get it in position. So, but you can see how everything actually fits in there quite neatly. You can see here, once you have your screws secured in place, you want to make sure you run your motor wires right across the top of the lip in the center here, because they're going to run right inside this trench, and you just want to make sure everything's nicely aligned in there. And then, as you can see here, very carefully just putting this right back in place and making sure those wires run across there, and then you're going to tighten your screws down, and everything will be in position. You can see here with the screws secured in place, you should have nice seams all the way around. Really little to no gap on the sides. If you're not getting this tight of a fit, it probably means that some foam either on the cowling or the hatch side or on the inside need to be trimmed until you get a nice fit like this. But you can see once it's secured like this, it looks really just like it did before. The next thing you're going to do is flip your airplane over and just put it up on the table or foam block or whatever you have. Reach in and grab the wires that you ran through from the back side. Just pull them all forward and secure them into place. And you're going to take your throttle channel right here, your throttle wire, and plug it right into your throttle channel of your receiver. Here's a look inside the airplane with everything completely secured in place. I'm going to start off by showing you guys all the way in the back here, if you can see the speed controller in there. And way back in here, if I can get this thing focused, you can see the tie wrap that I actually put back there. You can see the metal fan behind it. It's a good idea to tie wrap in place, if you can, the speed controller. And here's another view of it right down the middle. You can see very carefully the tie wrap that secures it on both sides, right there in the center of the screen, and then on the other side. I had to very carefully reach back there with my hands. It's hard to show this on film how to actually do it, but using a couple of long sets of needle nose pliers and a zip tie or a tie wrap back there, I was able to get that thing, as you can see way back in there, secured to hold the back end of that speed controller to that wood panel back there. It's not a necessary step, but man, securing that ESC down there with a tie wrap like that will really just kind of help keep that thing from possibly getting pulled into the fan. Also, on the front end of this thing, as you watch the wires coming in there, as you can see from the speed controller, what I did was I secured all the wires together with a tie wrap there. And then as you come forward, I secured a tie wrap, as you can see, guys, right down in here. And this one right here secured to the wood board really keeps those wires in place. And you can see how they run right along here, and the battery and everything all gets secured there. The other tie wrap that I first showed you right back here that secures all three wires together, you can see your throttle wire runs right up here and goes right into the throttle channel, as we just talked about a little earlier. And you can see everything's nice and secure in there, guys. You've got plenty of cooling going in there to the speed controller. Everything's nicely secured and locked into place. Now, one other item I want to show you guys up front. It's important to note right in here, I did clear away a little bit of this area down here so I could shift my batteries a little bit farther forward. Now, it's important to note when you look at this airplane as a whole, the stock fan back here weighed about 306 grams. The new fan back here is a little heavier. It's about 460. So you're looking at adding 150 grams of tail weight to the airplane. And the speed controller is a whole lot bigger too, so you've got a little bit more weight back here, but actually it just about counteracts the extra weight of going from 6-cell to an additional 2 more cells in here and having a full 8-cell pack. But even then, I still had to shift that 8-cell pack slightly forward, and just like I'm showing you in here, there was plenty of room down in here to do that. You can see I just cut a notch in there, so my batteries fit much farther up front. All right, guys, here's a look at the final cockpit setup. You can see the batteries are all in here. They fit under that shelf and into that notch that I carved quite nicely. And it's important to note that the additional 8 cells, going from 6 to 8 cells, actually perfectly, as I pushed it forward into that notch, did that little trimming, it perfectly balances out the additional weight of the new fan, which went from the old fan at 306 grams and the new fan in there at 460 grams. So adding the 150 grams of tail weight back there and the extra mass and size and weight there of the speed controller, that all perfectly balances out with going to 8 cells from 6, and it balances right at the factory CG. One more thing to note as well too. Initially my speed controller wouldn't boot up, and what I found I had to do was with the radio plugged in, the receiver power plugged in, I had to advance the throttle all the way to full, okay, and do a typical booting up of your speed controller, and then make your power connection. You can hear the tones. And then bring your throttle to idle. what that'll do is that'll calibrate and boot up your ESC. Now I had to do that 2 or 3 times to get the new ESC to boot up. So if it doesn't power up right away, that's probably why. And you have to run through this boot up calibration process probably a few times. Now it's all plugged in and ready to go, guys. So here's a little bit of a sound demo. I'm not going to power it up too much because I'm in the house. Here we go. All right, glassy smooth, guys. I will be getting this plane out to the field just as soon as I can, give you guys some flight demos of it. Definitely the JP 90mm and all the JP fans, the finest fans in the industry. It is time to recycle your plastic and fly a JP fan, guys. Hey, I appreciate you watching RC Informer, guys, and as always, we'll see you next time. We're coming by fast now. One more pass and I'm bringing it in.